Hello, I'm Justin Perkins, and this is Talk Junkie. Seriously, it is. In the words of Ice Cube, today's been a pretty good day. We're not going to talk about all the horrible things that are apparently going on in the world, because those things that's made for the news. You can find that there. But we are going to talk about the second part of our Conspiracy Theories podcast. This one's mostly going to be about conspiracy theories stuff. There's a couple notes of things I actually left out because I was in a hurry of the first episode. But before we do that, I'm going to try to get... Seems like sometimes when I say some of the stuff I need to say at the end, I think people may not make it to the end, or they may go, I'm going to skip this part because he's done with the podcast. So I'm going to throw it in now. It's important to support local businesses right now. Go on Facebook and go on Red Spotted Newt, R-E-A-D, Red Spotted Newt. There's a way you can do some shopping online that helps them out. I'm not sure how that is. Also, Roundabout Music in Whitesburg, Kentucky. You can still buy off them. I believe they will ship. So that's cool. I mean, look, that's how I'm getting through the apocalypse. I got a copy of Fletch. I've got some cassette tapes I got from Roundabout Music. I've got my Charles Bukowski poetry book I got from Red Spotted Newt. I'm set for the end times. Of course, those have been coming ever since the beginning of time. But anyway, today we're talking about conspiracy theories. I've got news that I'm not going to share with you, but kind of share with you. And I know that sounds odd, but over a year ago, my first attempt at doing a podcast was to do it with a large group of people, or at least with multiple people. That did not happen, and so that's why it was so far between episode 1 and episode 2. That's why there's 4 people on episode 1 and 1 person on episode 2. But a lot of people are really getting into podcasts now, and I do another podcast. I'm just a guest. They're the host, but with the host of that is Brad, and there's a gentleman named Muggles, Muggy Two Dope, whatever you want to call him. He's on there quite often, and it's a very fun, very different podcast from this. And I enjoy doing it, honestly, more than I enjoy doing this and sometimes. But it's a very different tone, so if you're, it may not be your type of thing, but definitely if it is, check them out. It's Raven Television Addict. But the whole reason I started podcasting is because there were a couple people in particular I thought would be great to sit down and podcast with. There was 3 of those people. 2 of them have been pretty clear that they're not really interested in doing it, and I hate that because I think they would be really great. But one of them was very interested in doing it, and we're just having a hard time getting the time together, but we're so close. So close. I even recorded a little teaser for it today. I'm not going to tell you what the podcast is called, though, but I'm beyond excited. And the reason I'm not going to tell you is I wonder how long it will take once I release it for people to figure out that they're both the same. But I don't know. I like weird experiments. Remember when I first started doing this podcast, we done the no social media advertising experiment. And apparently some people found out about it because the numbers ain't went up since then, really. So we're going to try it. I like to try different things, and those are 2 different worlds. This is somewhat a serious podcast, or at least a remotely fun podcast. The other podcast will be a completely uncensored, immature, childish podcast that I will enjoy immensely. Now back to this podcast and back to our conspiracy theories after I get a little sip of this cappuccino. As a wannabe professional podcaster, I try to use my cough button, aka the pause button, also when I drink. That way you don't hear the sensual sounds of me sipping cappuccino. But some people like that, some people hate it. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but that last sip was without it. This sip is with it. You tell me which one you prefer. Okay, on the first podcast, I basically give you some background. Kind of when I got into things like ghosts and aliens and conspiracy theories, and what got me into them, all that good stuff, and then kind of how I got out of them. A couple of things I missed or somehow forgot to admit, I guess forgot to include, I guess because I was in somewhat of a hurry, were the cryptozoologist end of it, Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and things of that nature. Never really thought of the Loch Ness Monster as anything paranormal, or, I just assumed that was real when I was younger. Same way with Bigfoot. As I grew older, I realized they weren't. No, I do not believe we've got a Bigfoot roaming around out there, and no, I don't believe Nessie is real. Did I for a long time? Yes. I really see no point in going into why I don't. I think it's called lack of proof. I'm a pretty proof positive type of guy. You give me proof, I'm down with it. But I can't believe that I left Bigfoot out, because I was a huge Bigfoot fanatic as a young lad, and I don't know. I just grew out of it. I had some other beliefs about a fat guy in a red suit and a bunny rabbit too, but we won't go into those. What we will go into are some of the most popular conspiracy theories out there. I consulted numerous websites, went through and wrote down what all of them had and the orders in which they had them, and threw out the things I just didn't want to talk about and threw in things I did want to talk about. So this list really has no validity as far as any actual ranking anywhere else, but this is the top 8 conspiracy theories I found as far as looking around on the internet that are more, I guess, widely known. I mean, there's some conspiracy theories that aren't, really widely known that we may touch on, but these are some that are really out there. Number 1, secret groups controlling the world. The Illuminati, the NWO, not Hogan, Nash, and Hall. They actually just played the NWO on TV, but they're actual members of the New World Order. That some people believe are running things, and some people believe that the New World Order is synonymous with the Illuminati. But that's not the only people that are on this list of people that are believed to be running the world. Freemasons are on this list. Now, look, I don't know if Illuminati exists. Whatever Alex Jones done with this Bohemian Grove deal he caught back in the night, that was some weird stuff. There's admittedly a lot of secret organizations out there, like the Freemasons, who are very widespread. I don't believe the Freemasons are ruling the world. I don't know. I don't believe that. Not even at a large scale or a small scale or any way. One of the most racist things I've seen online were that Jewish people were ruling the world. Poor Jewish people, man, this may be the most hated race of people in the history. It is, undoubtedly, in the history of the world. But I don't feel that they're ruling the world. These guys are on the list, the Koch brothers. I believe they very much have a lot of influence over the world. So, to me, that leaves the conspiracy theory realm and kind of just gets into, man, I wish that wasn't true, but it probably is realm. I don't believe that they're technically ruling the world, but that's some rich people. The Koch family has a lot more money and a lot more influence than they should. The last one, I don't know if it's, you guys remember the 80s TV show, was it V, whatever it was, or 70s, whenever that was, with the lizard people come down, and they're actually, the lizard people are thought to rule our world currently, with the exception of Dick Cheney, who actually is a lizard person. I don't know that any others have been found, and to me, if you can only provide one lizard person, I don't know that constituted actually being a factual thing. I don't think if aliens came down as lizards, or if subterranean lizards lived here on Earth and made their way up to rule the world, that they would take the time to conceal themselves all these years as humans. Plus, where would they hide that tongue? The costuming is extremely good if that is the case. So, now that we've covered this number 1 on this list, secret groups controlling the world, I don't believe any of those groups actually control the world. I believe we're misled a lot. I believe there's a lot of things going on that we don't know about. I believe rich people have a ton of influence, but I believe there's too many really, I guess, people with big egos to allow that to happen. For example, I don't personally believe, and this is somewhat of a conspiracy theory, I don't personally believe that the President of the United States really has a whole lot of control over this country. I believe that special interest groups and behind-the-scenes money is filtered into a group of people who really get things done in Washington that are outside of it. And to me, the only way to change that would be change our political system. But I do not believe that one group of people rules the world. If that were the case, the United States would rule the world, because we're greedy enough to fight for that. Plus, Putin's letting nobody tell him what to do. He is the kind of the quintessential anti-argument to one group ruling the world, because he's not going to kowtow to anybody. I don't believe. Of course, people with enough money and power can get you to do anything, even people like him to do anything, but I don't think that's the case. Number 2 on this list, and it popped up a lot. I'm going to give it the amount of time and respect it deserves. 9/11 was an inside job. Yeah, I don't believe that. It's ridiculous. I mean, maybe it's possible. I'm just saying there's no evidence, and that was a serious tragedy. And I will give this as a side note: the fact that somebody had on one of the lists that Sandy Hook wasn't real and didn't happen. I'm not going to go into any depth discussing that. That's ridiculous. I don't have those on here. Number 3, the JFK assassination. Now, this is one that as a kid I really believed in, and I really done a lot of research in. Like I said, I watched a lot of movies involving it. I read a lot of books involving it. I've watched a lot of TV specials and shows and stuff over the years. It's one of those things, I guess it gets down to what part of it do we want to classify as being a conspiracy? Do I believe the United States government themselves, in a government action, killed John Fitzgerald Kennedy? No, I do not. He had a lot of enemies, a lot of political enemies and a lot of personal enemies. There were things regarding the entering the war into Vietnam that could have put him on people's list. But the big thing that really put him on most people's list is the communists in the rest of the world really wanted him dead, especially the Cubans. And there's things like the Gulf of Tonkin, the Bay of Pigs, things of that nature that in some way, but the Gulf of Tonkin was a conspiracy theory. It's proved to be true. The Bay of Pigs, if looked at in a certain way, if it had been accomplished and no one had ever known, would be looked at as conspiracy theory now. So there are conspiracy theories that are true. With the assassination of Kennedy, I feel like he was shot. Oswald was definitely involved. If anyone else was involved, it was more than likely the Mafia, the Cubans, the Russians, or a combination of the three. But I do not feel that the government killed Kennedy, mainly because I don't feel like there's any proof there. There's the possibility that he had dirt on him. He was into a lot of dirty things, and, you know, the fact that his brother was a victim of the same tragedy of being assassinated, you know, and then the death of Marilyn Monroe, someone romantically linked to both of them. There are a lot of odd things there. And look, I'm not a close the door on anything type of guy. If proof come up, I would definitely revisit that one. I would revisit any of these if proof came up, but at this point I really don't see anything that points me towards that being anything other than the dude got killed and they caught the guy. As far as letting Jack Ruby get in and shoot him, and it's a different time and a different world, and kind of, you know, it is what it is. But it's a tragedy that we lose anyone ever to death, and it's really, really, you know, hard to swallow as a country when you lose a sitting president, especially one that was as beloved as him. But, you know, I don't think that makes it necessarily a conspiracy. But as a kid, I was totally sold on that. And in the same light of that, something that didn't pop up on these lists, but, you know, his brother's assassination. There's been rumor of what caused it, and there was rumor of them, you know, the United States government killing Malcolm X and trying to blame it on the Nation of Islam. There's conspiracy theories about the United States going out after Martin Luther King and James Earl Ray being a scapegoat. I don't believe that James Earl Ray needed to be a scapegoat, but there were definitely people within the United States government that would have liked to have had Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. silenced. Especially Martin Luther King Jr., because the way that he was able to deliver his message and the way that he was able to get across to people and the way that he was able to connect with people and the bond that he seemed to have with people was very special. And so I could see him being very much a threat. I don't, however, see the United States government as a whole being willing to do something like that, but a small unit or a small entity of somebody, yes, it's very well possible. But unfortunately, James Earl Ray is a piece of trash, and there's more pieces of trash in this world than there are good people at times. It seems, I don't believe that that's a factual statement. I shouldn't say the statistical statement, but it seems to be that those are the people we are more exposed to. So there's definitely people out there that would do something like that. But nothing about those scream conspiracy theory to me either. It was horrible people in all three cases that committed atrocious crimes. And luckily, between Sirhan and they were all caught, and, at least some justice was found. Number 4 on this list, and this one's a doozy. Now, when I was growing up, and even still to this day, the mecca of the UFO community was Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51. Was it Rachel, Nevada? All this entire area. From the Los Alamos labs, all these secret installations and these secret facilities. When I was younger, in my X-Files days, I was 100% sure and positive that Area 51 was completely and totally responsible for holding the remains of the crash in Roswell, New Mexico. And that's what gave us the stealth bomber, the SR-71 Blackbird, and all of our innovations in science that we have made so rapidly over the last 30, 40 years. I was on board with this 100%. Of all of the ones we're going to talk about today, I put in more research time in my life with Roswell and aliens and Area 51, across the board with aliens, than anything else I'm going to discuss here with you today. From Project Blue Book to if I'll say this, if the Freedom of Information Act had happened when I was much younger, and some of the things that they've received through the Freedom of Information Act happened when I was much younger, and Bob Lazar had come out. He had come out when I was younger, but come out to the level that he's come out with this new documentary, which I've seen. If those things had happened when I was younger, and we'd had to show Ancient Aliens when I was about 13, 14 years old, I may have never left the realm of conspiracy theories and aliens. It may have trapped me for life. Now, with a different lens at which I view life through, those things just seem trivial and fun and entertaining, but I draw the line at entertaining. But if we're going to take and break down aliens, let's do this. Aliens pop up here. We're going to break this down into Roswell and the crash at Roswell, Area 51, abductions. Let's do that. Let's break it into those three. I think the crash at Roswell was a combination of a few things. Combination of hysteria and excitement in a very small town, mixed with government misinformation and involvement, mixed with the Russians were somewhere they shouldn't be, or somebody was somewhere they shouldn't be with some spy equipment, or maybe us. Maybe we were doing something we shouldn't do with some equipment, and it becomes a military cover-up. And I believe the government initially thought, let us make it sound crazy, because there's no way they've seen this whatever this was. It wasn't a balloon, obviously, but they've seen whatever it is. They're going to know we're working on something big. Let's make this something so out there that it'll get their mind off it. That nobody around the world knows what the government's doing here, and they throw out this alien thing, and then somebody goes, wait a minute, we're going to panic people like crazy. This is making a weather balloon and start over. I believe that's really the gist of what happened with the crash at Roswell. I believe it was either our military equipment or somebody else's military equipment, and our military simply did not want. And if you look at the story of what happened, and it's basic protocol for misinformation, large groups of team to clean up the crash site. They shipped stuff to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They shipped stuff to what was the Air Force Base out in? I believe it was in the first episode of the X-Files. I don't know if it was or not. I just wanted to push that button again. But I mean, they followed proper protocol. We have this, either our equipment, let's get it hid where nobody can see it, or we have someone else's equipment, let's get it to our most important facilities and get it where nobody's seeing it. I've been on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base when I was a Civil Air Patrol, when I was up in Ohio for a training meeting when I was a parts manager for a car dealership back around 2001, 2002. If it was there, they were going to tell me while I was touring the place, and they didn't say a word, so I'm assuming that it's not there. Now, when it comes to abductions, there have been some abduction stories over the years. Man, I talk more than anybody I know on a daily basis, just a normal human life, because I never shut up. But I try, because I have a horrible country accent when I do this, to at least enunciate and speak at a level that you guys can understand, and it makes me mumble and jumble my words horribly. But anyway, when it comes to abductions, there are some stories out there that are, fascinating stories from books and accounts and movies and all that, been all the way around. I don't believe it's my place to tell anybody, hey, I can tell you exactly what you've seen, even though I didn't see what they've seen. And I don't believe it's my place to tell anyone, hey, I know you're saying you experienced this, but I don't believe you did, and I believe you're completely wrong, or you're being... that you're lying or whatever. So until I have an experience like that, I really don't have any comment on it. I do not believe that abductions are real. I don't know. It's, even towards, I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful. I just believe myself personally that that's not the case. But, there may be people who feel like they have a case that just, it is beyond reproach. I've not seen one yet. Number 5 on this list, and it's one that somehow I was oblivious to as a child, and I was actually an adult before I heard this conspiracy theory. So it's one I've never believed in. It's one, though, that I find very plausible. Very plausible. To me, it's the one of the few on this that has the ability of being true at any time. At any point, I'm just waiting for somebody to show me this one little piece of proof, and I'll be like, no, okay, yeah. This is not one I'm dead set against. It's possible. But as an adult, I was let in on the fact that the moon landing is considered to be faked by many people. Now, again, I've never thought this, known this, heard this, but I've seen good proof both ways. I don't know. I guess I just wanted us to be on the moon so bad that I've never allowed myself to believe that it's not true. But of all of them, again, this is the one that I'm like, okay. We know that they faked some pictures that weren't actually of spacewalks or things of that nature, because they had film deterioration and weren't able to get, so like they would just kind of Photoshop back before it was known to be Photoshopping. And they've been caught and admitted things like that. I don't think they've done so with anything linked to the moon landing, but with other things, with spacewalks and stuff. I can't remember the exact situation it was in, but there was they had a picture out there and they were using it for publicity, and it was actually taken from training. It was not the guy doing the spacewalk, but they passed it off as a spacewalk. But anyway, when it comes to the moon landing, 2 things about the moon landing. One, I do believe it could be possible that it's faked. I do, however, believe it's real. But the big thing is, there's a belief that not only is it faked, but Stanley Kubrick faked it. And that The Shining is his confession. And because of this, we get the documentary, I think the documentary is Room 237. I can't remember, but dear God, because I don't have much of a memory, I can't tell you if that was the title of it or not, but it's Room, I believe it's Room 237. It is a wonderful documentary, and even if everything in it is wrong, I love conspiracy documentaries, I love movies about conspiracies, and that one, my friend, is, bar none, one of the best I've ever seen, and it's so fascinating. Even if it's not true, it gives you insight to what a genius has done, even if their insight is completely and totally wrong and incorrect, but it's one that apparently was always popular, and I didn't know, and it keeps popping up, and it was very frequently on these lists of these things I've seen when I looked at these. Not a corona cough. That was an allergy drainage cough. We're safe. Number 6. This one I seen on a couple different spots, and I don't believe it's true because of the wording. The wording I seen on all these websites was that the FDA was withholding a cancer cure. I could see Big Pharma withholding a cancer cure to a certain level till somebody got complete control of it where they can make a lot of money off of it. But I don't see the FDA withholding it. That doesn't make sense. A lot of rich people have died with cancer. I don't really have anywhere to go on that one. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know. Tell me Big Pharma's withholding it, and you're probably right. But as far as the FDA, look, I don't know. I don't see it. Number 7, and this one again. This is something that, which I'm sure it's probably only popped up as much in later years. It's something I wasn't super familiar with when I was younger. I did, however, there was some stuff involved in Vietnam, somewhat similar to this, but it's something that's become more and more prevalent over the years. But it's something I never really believed in and still don't. That's chemtrails. We know about ionizing, I think it's called, of clouds and things of that nature, and how it's possible to maybe produce rain. And I've always been told that they did that in Vietnam. It's why it rains so much, trying to flood out these tunnel rats. I don't know. The government has a lot better delivery systems than our planes, so the whole chemtrails thing's kind of like the HARP thing, which HARP was kind of in on this, in around this level, so it kind of leave both those out. I know it gets kind of boring towards the end of this list, but I mean, hey, I'm trying to go with the popular ones everybody's talking about. I mean, come on, chemtrails. Tell me that they're pumping some chemicals into our heating and cooling in public buildings, okay, but I mean, chemtrails, it doesn't really. Unless they are controlling the weather. And I've got a buddy that, whether he's joking or not, has made statements like that. And that's possible. I mean, I'll give you that. But as far as the chemtrails, the way I'm hearing it explained on these other, on these different lists and stuff, now. Number 8 is one that I really hate to mention, but to me it shows the pathetic, ignorant state of some people, and I will mention it just because of that. And I will tell you wholeheartedly now and at any point in my life, I do not believe this is the truth, and it is a horrible, horrible person to come up with this conspiracy theory. But there is the conspiracy theory that the Holocaust didn't happen, and that's ridiculous and sad and horrible and atrocious, and I don't know why anybody would do that. The sadness of what those people went through, and I mean, it's Alfred Hitchcock made a movie, and I don't know the entire background of all this, and I can't remember the name of it, and I looked the name of it up before starting on this podcast and wrote it down and cannot remember. I think it's Into the Dark or Into the Night or Farewell. I can't remember, but it won't be hard to look up. I don't believe he finished it. I knew the history on it. When it first popped up and surfaced, I got to see it. And basically, it's a film about the Holocaust and some things that it's one of the hardest pieces of film I've ever tried to sit down and watch. I find video footage of the concentration camps and what little bit there are. I can't watch those things, and to imagine what those people had to go through is a sadness that I can't even begin to process or imagine. So to say that didn't happen is disrespectful on a level that I don't get and don't understand. Now let's get into some that are these were on some of the list, but they weren't the big ones. So I wanted to be fair and get the big ones. Let's get into the ones that are kind of big that I think may be probable. We live in a simulation. There is a huge well, no, there is a segment of the population that believes that we currently live in a simulation. We basically live in the Matrix. I am getting ready to do an entire podcast just on that. So we won't go deep into it, and I won't give you a whole lot of thoughts on it, but I do think, although not likely, that definitely in the future becomes possible. And there's some people that say because it will more than likely happen in the future makes the probability very high that we are currently living in a simulation. And I'll tell you right now, Elon Musk seems to believe wholeheartedly we are in a simulation right now. And dude's sharp as a tack. So I don't know. That is one that is starting to build and build and build more popularity. And it's one that still makes me go, because of certain reasons. And again, we'll get into that down the road. This is one that the world is not that the world is much old. Look, there's people that believe the world's 6,000 years old. More power to you. I'm not going to debate that with you because there's no way I could say anything that would change your mind, and there's no way you could say anything that I would put any value in. So we're not going to debate the 6,000-year-old thing. To me, that's a conspiracy theory that I have never believed in and has no weight. So, listen. But there is the theory that possibly human civilization is much older than we believe it to be, and that humans have been this sophisticated at least once, maybe twice, possibly 3 times throughout the history of man. And I do believe that that is more likely than not, and so that is one conspiracy theory that I do very much believe in. At one point in time, apparently, and I don't know this to be true because I don't remember, there was a conspiracy theory that the Catholic Church was doing some shady stuff and touching kids. We now know that that is very much true. And I'm curious if anybody ever remembers that being a conspiracy theory before you knew about it. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there was common knowledge amongst people who were Catholics because I've heard them talk about it, that may have happened. But like on a widespread level, was that ever thought of to be, I don't know. There were other ones like Obama wasn't born in the U.S. I don't really particularly believe that one. I've seen no documentation of it. I don't know. I went through a lot of those on that list. There were a couple I wanted to talk about that really in the simulation one was one of them that I believe could be plausible and likely, I guess. There is a documentary on Netflix called The Family. This kind of ties into the very first one we spoke about, secret groups controlling the world. I don't want to spoil this documentary for you, so my request would be that you watch this documentary. It's called The Family. I believe that The Family is proof that there is a group of people who has an impact globally, more so than any other group of people in the world. And that's the extent of what I'm going to say about it. So, although I do not believe in the Illuminati is explained in these things, I do not believe in the New World Order. I do believe in Hogan, Nash, and Hall. I believe in the Wolf Pack to a certain degree, but not at the level of the original 3 NWO. The original 3 NWO, but that's for a wrestling podcast. That's a completely different thing. I believe even more in the 4 Horsemen, but not of the apocalypse of WCW. But that's for a completely different one. As far as if you want me to tell you 2 things that on a conspiracy level to look into, watch, and it's the only way for me to do it without ruining the documentary, watch The Family on Netflix. A great documentary. That's a conspiracy theory that I believe in, and I believe I believe there's proof. I don't even see where it could be a conspiracy theory. And I'm iffy on this whole simulation thing. Yeah, I don't know. I could see it. I could see it possibly being true. The thing about conspiracy theories and people's attraction to conspiracy theories. I think there's a couple reasons why people like these and why they're popular. On one hand, one group of people at least they don't want to accept the world as they see it. They don't want to accept the world that they're existing in. So the fact that something more exciting and something more spectacular is happening in that world, and they know something about it that other people don't. So the thing that's happening is special, but they're special because they know about it and other people don't. And I think that's a large part of the attraction of conspiracy theories. Another reason, I think another part of people is we're lied to a lot by people in control. And so we're kind of left to make up our own reality and truth of what's really happening, not what we're being told officially, because the official report often seems to be BS. And in doing so, that allows us to go full imagination mode. And when we do, we get lizard people. Instead of saying, oh man, almost every president we've ever had has been a crook and taken advantage of the people, and that even though they've done that, they're still human. No, they have to be lizards. When we look at it rationally and go, some people look at it and they're correct. Well, the president really doesn't have that much power. The president's kind of a puppet. He's kind of, the face of a government that he has very little impact on when it comes to getting anything passed, because it has to go through House, Congress, things of that nature. Okay, then that's the kind of thing that gets you to, well, who's running things behind the scene? And I do think the industrial military complex has a lot more power than people realize, and I do think they help make a lot of our decisions. Groups like the NRA, because they support something that most Americans can get behind. I'm a very big Second Amendment advocate, and I believe deeply in the Second Amendment, and they back that belief. But the NRA does some horrible things, or are reported to do some horrible things in other ways. So, somebody else running the show? Yeah. Well, there is definitely somebody else running the show. Watch The Family. And a lot of people understand this. When you watch The Family, a lot of people will not take issue with who's running the show. Like, this is not going to be something that you watch this and go, oh my God. Like, a lot of people that I've shared this documentary with have watched it and went, well, I'm glad those people are running the show. I will say that I am a huge proponent of the separation of church and state. Getting away from the Church of England was vital to our survival here. And getting away from things like the burning of the witches in Salem, to what degree that actually happened, which is another conspiracy theory, oddly enough, to some degree. But it watch The Family. Again, I don't want to ruin things for you. So there we go. Over 2 episodes, we got to talk about what little cute little lad Justin, and his little toys and his imagination and all that, and how he came up believing in conspiracy theories and ghosts and aliens and things of that nature. Bigfoot. I can't believe I forgot Bigfoot the first time. But how I got from there to where I am now, basically believing in nothing except for the Matrix and Fight Club. But that's a completely different story as well. But give me maybe there's a conspiracy theory I didn't think of or didn't mention that you think I should have mentioned. And if so, author J. Perkins, author J. Perk, that's what it is, author J. Perk, P-E-R-K, at gmail.com. Message that to me, or get on YouTube at J. Perkins and leave the comments there, or I don't know, just get some smoke signals. I don't know. Just send it to me. You send it to me, and maybe we'll do conspiracy theories and ghosts and goblins and boogers and all that 2.0. I don't know. It depends on the amount of interaction and stuff I get back. If you think I got something wrong, you're probably right. Just send it to me, and if I agree with it, I'll put it on. And if I don't, I'll just continue to be wrong about it because I feel that I'm right. It doesn't really matter. Support your local podcasters. Support your local businesses. Get online, see what you can do to help. The world is crazy right now. Just be calm, relax. Look, if it really is the end of times, you're not making it through it, so what does it matter? There's no point in freaking out. But if it's just an illness that we are having a hard time fighting, if we kind of just do what they tell us to a certain degree, we'll be okay. Having said that, I'm not down with martial law, and I'm not down with full government control. So, I'm an anarchist at heart. I can't help it. I know that's a bad thing to be, but, I don't like private businesses being told what to do, but I'm trying to play ball and play along and be a good guy. Consume, obey, all those things that they told me to tell you. I can't remember exactly what all they were. Don't question authority. I don't know. We get all kinds of things when you do podcasts that they tell you to tell the listeners, and those were on the list. I've had a great time. Contrary to, this is one of the biggest conspiracy theories out there. Chris Carter did not write these last two podcasts. I don't know how I'm going to come up with an excuse to use that music in upcoming episodes, but I will. I would like to thank our wonderful live audience that we recorded in front of today. No, seriously, you guys have been great. I wasn't joking. You guys are wonderful. You guys that listen are wonderful too. You don't have to listen. There's enough people listening that I keep doing these. I get enough interaction and enough people saying, hey, I listen. I get enough downloads that it makes it fun for me to do it, and I'm going to keep on doing it. If you can't find me here, hopefully they'll be nice enough to have me back on the Raven Television Addict Show, and you may be able to find me there. But there's another one coming. There's another podcast coming. I just don't know exactly when or where, but it's coming. I'll say this. It's going to be a big ball of sunshine. And as cryptic as that is, that's the only hint I'm giving you for now. I'm going to give in and tell you what it is. I can't help it. But I'm so excited. It is the reason I started podcasting. We got other ones coming up. I'm going to do the one over the Matrix at some point. But as they say in the holler, Ewan's has been great. And I guess I owe Ewan's a quote for the day, because that's what I want to do. The idea was to start doing that from the very first podcast, and I didn't. So let me get Ewan's a quote real quick. This is one that you may hear me use again and again, and it's from Nietzsche. And even though I think he's arrogant and oftentimes self-obsessed, the dude's got some of the greatest quotes of all time. But I'm going to give you this quote from Nietzsche. Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages, it is the rule. Nietzsche. And in the words of Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, snoochie boochies.